Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here at the Endurance School for a very special detention. Tonight we are joined by Nathan Killam. Nathan is a Canadian professional triathlete, a professional firefighter, a dad, and a many-time beer mile champion. He's raced at all distances from Ironman all the way down to the ultra-short Superleague Triathlon. He coaches as well. He works for AJ Baucco Coaching Group.
Nathan's also one of the Wadi Inc. professionals, which is where you may know him from out in the triathlon world. He lives in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and he's coached by Bjeorn Ossenbrink, who he has worked with for well over a decade, I think. Nathan's been on multiple Ironman and Ironman 70.3 podia. He was also second at Challenge San Gil down in Querétaro, Mexico. But I think he's probably maybe proudest of his podium finish with other Canadian greats, Cody Beals and Lionel Sanders at Ironman Mont Tremblant. Nathan Killam, welcome to Detention.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm
excited to be here with you guys.
Stoked to have you. We're going to start with the question that we start this show for a lot of people, and this will help us out. We'll learn whether or not you have this in Canada, because we know that you don't have a lot of the things that we have here. But is this your first time in detention?
Yes.
Really?
Really?
Maybe.
You never went to detention as a kid?
It's not a big. It wasn't a really super big thing here. I can't say that it was super big. In high school, I don't think they even bothered doing detention. They're so nice here, it's Canada. Oh, you won't do it again.
We believe in you.
We're sorry that you were bad.
Oh.
I can imagine, because
I think some schools did it, but just the ones I went to, I don't think they did it. They just booted you. I don't think just go. Come back tomorrow. Try again tomorrow.
Were you a rambunctious kid? I can't imagine that you weren't.
Yes.
Yes.
I definitely got kicked out of class a lot in elementary school. That was my elementary school. That's how they dealt with overly rambunctious kids. I had one teacher that was great. I had ADHD growing up, and he would tell me to go run 3 laps of the soccer field, and then I'd come back, he'd give me some crackers, and then that would usually calm me down. But when you just went off the rails, it just kind of be like, okay, go to Mr. whoever's class down the road, or go see Miss whoever, and just sit in on their class. I don't want to deal with you right now.
I love this teacher. This teacher is like, go be someone else's problem.
Yeah, that was all the teachers in that was how that school dealt with problem kids.
I think it's a totally valid approach.
Yeah, but they would always send you to the younger kids class, so you wouldn't really learn a whole lot. You just get to play with toys. I'm like, this is after the fact. I'm like, that doesn't really seem like a good way to teach consequences. You've been bad. Go play with toys.
You're right. Actually, that doesn't make sense.
So this has definitely been an odd year for all of us. And so instead of asking people how they're doing, we're asking a little bit about what you've been doing. So in this time when we've had the ability to step back somewhat, or at least shift focus, what has this made possible for you that you haven't had time for before?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of changes for me and my family the last year. I mean, the hardest thing for us in the first few months was that daycare was closed. So I had to alter my work schedule so that I could be home with my son, so my wife could work. Because if my wife didn't work, she didn't get paid, right? So they were pretty forgiving and working around my schedule a bit, but I basically spent most of my days with my son. So it was definitely a little more challenging, but I also got to spend a lot of time with my son, which was something I'd never want to change again. That was a pretty special period in my life. So it's very small, short windows of training. But then, once daycare reopened, we moved to the North Shore here in Vancouver, which is just across the water where all the mountains are. And I got a much better mountain bike at the end of the year previous. So I spent a lot of time on the mountain bike last year, just working on mountain bike skills. I've been racing mountain bikes in Xterra a little bit over the past few years. So it was really nice to kind of work on those skills. And that was kind of something that I wouldn't be able to do. Generally through the summer, mountain biking is kind of a no-no just for the sake of potential injury. But yeah, that was amazing. It's so much, every single ride is fun. like I still love, triathlon training and riding the road bike and the tri rig, but there's something about going out and knowing you're going to have fun. Like the whole thing is going to be fun. So that was pretty special. And then we were lucky enough to be able to, because of the housing market kind of acting a little funky, we were able to sell our condo and buy a house over here. So that was pretty exciting for us. And I did a 3-month reno. I did over 900 hours of my own work in 2 months and 3 weeks.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that was pretty intense. And that's something you could just the first month I did 0 training. So that's something you just wouldn't do in a normal year. So that was really interesting, to say the least, and something I would never have thought that I'd have time to do. So it was kind of like the gift of COVID a little bit. I got to have fun on the mountain bike, spend extra time with my son. We were able to buy our first house. So it was kind of finding a diamond in the rough, I guess.
That is awesome. Is he old enough to mountain bike yet?
He has a Strider bike and he's learning the
Nice.
pedal bike, but we definitely take him on some of the green trails on his little Strider bike. And
Very cool.
He loves it.
You
Yeah.
are getting lots of love on the home reno from people who've seen pictures on your social. So people who are in chat right now say you've done a really good job.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. There's one bathroom left that I'm going to save for this fall, and the backyard needs some love. You have to tear down some structures and build some new ones. But yeah, I didn't really get into the photos until later in the reno when I was like, oh, I got really huge feedback from things that I thought were like, oh my God, I'm just grinding. I have no skin left on my knuckles from this. And people are enjoying, they want to see me leveling floors. Okay. So I just started posting more photos of the work I was doing in the before and after, and people were seeming to really love it. So that was really fun people kind of motivate you to, stop and try and include others. So it kind of helped the process, because there was a lot of time by myself here. So that was nice.
And just to pick up on that, I know that you're a pretty extroverted guy, and that alone time is alone time hard for you?
Yes, definitely. I mean, even when I moved out of my parents' house, I lived on my own for 18 months. While I was dating my now wife. It was lonely, very lonely. And when I was here, I think having I'm a very obsessive person, and I obsess about things. So that really helps, because I'm really focused. It's like kind of like ADD, laser focus. People who have ADD or have had ADHD kind of know that you have no focus on anything until you have the focus. And once you got the focus, you're just obsessed, and that's takes up your whole life. So that was really helpful for the first month or two. I did have some guys coming through for demo and little bits of this and that, guys that I work with, and that was kind of fun, but it was almost counterproductive, because I would find that I would just kind of hang out in the area of the house that they were working, and would end up just spending half the day talking and not getting work done. So that was definitely tough, because I just had this huge pull to go talk to these people, because I work with them and they're my friends. But yeah, it was I just had the eye on the prize the whole time. So it's just kind of, I'm good at going into survival mode, and I was like, this is what we need to do. I just have to get it done. And it was actually really nice when we were painting, because there's no fans running, you don't have loud noises, you're not drilling and chipping and stuff, so you can actually talk and paint in the same room. So that was probably the most enjoyable part of the whole process, was when I could actually talk with people. But it was definitely lonely. Some days I would leave my house at 6 a.m. and I wouldn't get home till 10, 11, 12 at night, and I basically saw the guy down at the building supply store at the checkout counter was all the interaction I got. So it was tough.
Spending a lot of time at the checkout counter at the supply store.
Yeah, the guy's like, next?
Yeah.
I don't need your story, buddy. Just next.
What's that guy's name? You probably know it at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of different people.
Okay.
It's a whole circle
Lucky
of friends. I've been doing the same thing to the people I run into at there's an outdoor pool that I joined, and all the people there, I'm like, hey, how are you? What's happening? What's going on? And they're like,
I can definitely tell when the lifeguards they're trying to be like, yeah, okay, and they're trying to clean stuff, and they're like, okay, we'll see you next time. It's like, oh yeah, no, and just they're like, okay, I can't just stand here and talk to you.
Exactly. Like it's 20 degrees, freezing cold.
That would be warm here in Canada.
That's true. It's balmy. So I know that we'll get into all of your credentials as a professional triathlete. You've done some very cool races. You have some amazing results. But I have to know what the beer mile is. I think that a lot of people think they know what the beer mile is. Like you run a mile, you drink some beer. What is it? Why are you so good at it? What does it take to be so good at it? What drew you to it? Tell us about the story of you and the beer mile.
So, honestly, I have no idea why I'm good at it. So I used to be quite overweight, and I would assume I have a very stretchy stomach, so I could still put back. If I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, we're gonna crush. I can put back food like nobody else. So I think that probably has a big influence on my ability to crush. What is it, like 1.2 liters of beer and run fast? It was so funny how I got into it. My friend, I'd done a run workout one day. I was actually working a day shift the next day. And he's like, hey, it's in the winter. It's like 6:30 at night. He's like, hey, you want to go for a 45-minute run? I was like, I already did a run workout today. And then I'd heard about this beer mile thing. I was like, hey, want to go do a beer mile? And like, this is probably 6 or 7 years ago. And he's like, okay. I'm like, okay, I'll drive to the track near my house and you just come run over and meet me, and I'll just pick up there's a liquor store on the way. So I pick up this like room temperature beer, just the cheapest possible beer that they sold. It was on sale. It was like $6 for a 6-pack, which is unheard of in Canada. It's not that alcohol is not as cheap up here as it is in the States. So we roll in, it's dark, there's no lights on this track. We have no lights. It's a dirt track. And meanwhile, I was actually just talking to this friend last night about the whole beer mile thing, and he had done many before, and he's like, oh yeah, Nathan's going to do the classic. He's going to go way too hard at the start. He's just going to start throwing up, and it's just going to be a gong show, and I'm going to laugh at him. So tells me the rules. We stand there. I'm like, okay, I got my little watch. I'm like, okay, can't really see it. Okay, you ready? Let's go. Go, drink the first beer, and I lapped by the third beer, I had lapped him. And he's just like standing there, like trying to drink his beer. And I'm like chirping him as I'm coming in. I drink my fourth beer and I rip a lap. He never even finished his last lap. And I finish and I'm like, And he's like, oh, what was your time? I said, oh, it was 6:20. And he went, whoa, that's kind of serious. I was like, well, what's your fastest time? He's like, 8.5 minutes. I was like, whoa, that was kind of good, I think. So then I started looking up the beer mile results, and I think I did another one or two with Rachel McBride later that year, and then we started doing one every year. So yeah, that's kind of how my start of beer miling went, and I don't know why I'm good at it. I think I just can drink the beer real quick. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, if you look at the actual good milers, they're over a minute faster, like 75 seconds faster than me, which is insane. But what's your beer mile PR? 5:40.
Oh my god.
Yeah, which I think is still faster than Matt Lieto. So
does it include the time you're drinking the beer? You're kidding.
So they hit a start watch, and then you crack the first beer and go, and you have your beers lined up there. So you crack a beer and drink it, and then you run a lap, grab the second beer, open it, drink it, run a lap, and so that the starter. The timer starts as soon as you crack that first beer, and it ends as soon as you cross the 1,610 meter mark, which is a mile. So you've already drank the 4 beer, you've run the 4 laps, and then the timer ends.
I'm really impressed by how fast you can run this, but I'm also really impressed by how fast you can drink a beer.
I think even though 5:40 is my PB, I think the most proud moment for me in beer miling was running 6 minutes flat 5 hours after the ITU long distance world championships.
Oh my god.
And I think Bag was there.
Yes, I was there. I finished behind you. It was the next person over the line, Nathan. I was literally 2 minutes behind you.
I think he was there, but I couldn't see him.
Yeah. Once you finish, you don't remember much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to bring that up as one of, that's true. It was that afternoon, which blows my mind. I had remembered it as the next day, but you're right. It was that evening.
We finished, I don't even know how many kilometers. It's a long race. It was like, what, 5.5 hours or something, or 6 hours? And like the 30K run. And I remember going into that thinking, this is not going to go well. I don't think I'll be the slowest guy because half the field did the race today too, but okay, just don't be last. And then I did a couple laps jog, and I was like, well, I'm not going to feel any better than this because I've already run 30K as a warm-up today. So, but as soon as we started going, I was like, my legs feel pretty good. And then the second lap, I was like, that felt pretty darn good. And then by the third lap, I was like, okay, we're uncorking this. Let's go. And so I think the last 2 laps are probably the fastest. But yeah, that I did not feel good the next day. Mostly my legs. It's not a good recovery strategy for endurance racing.
Best practices for improving your beer mile time, because your first one was 6:20, your PR was 5:40. That's pretty impressive. You're taking 10 seconds off per lap. What are the little things that you discovered along the way that made you better?
You got to be able to get the beer down fast. That's probably where most people falter. Is like there's a lot of people who can just like free chug the first beer when you're not breathing at all. There's no lactate in your system. Just going. And lots of people will stay with me or even go faster than me on the first lap. Like the Kona Beer Mile in 2015, everyone was together in the first lap. I think I was like sitting at the back of the pack. That second beer, everybody slows down, and by the third beer, people are just standing there like they get a couple sips in, and then they're trying to breathe and get a couple sips in. So trying to like be able to chug fast, like I can take a half-liter water bottle and just. So that's it's a stupid thing I saw on YouTube once, and I was like, I bet if I can get good at that, I can probably chug a beer faster. So you basically are like pressurizing it into your stomach, and then learning to run with a full belly. And that's something I'm used to like training. Like when you do 3 or 4 sessions in a day, you have to eat food and you have to train with food in your stomach. So just kind of learn how to do that. But I think being a retired fat guy, I think is probably like my biggest, like Matt Lieto, he can do some like incredible gastronomic feats. And I think it's because we were fat guys. We just know how to like eat lots and then do stuff. So
do you have any?
Ask him about his burger race. He did some.
Oh no!
I've heard about the burger race.
Oh wait, is this the Pilot Butte one?
Pilot Butte challenge.
Oh no!
If you throw up once, you're out. If you throw up again, you're back in. It's the most fiendishly designed rule of all time.
That's hilarious.
A whole bunch of grown men and women trying to make themselves throw up twice after throwing up a plate-sized hamburger.
No.
That's kind of gross. Oh, and beer choice. You want to make sure you get beer with coarse carbonation, not fine carbonation, or you'll end up barfing up foam instead of burping up air. Really weird thing I learned. Coors Banquet. You can get it anywhere in the world pretty much.
Okay.
It tastes like crap. But I used to use Hell's Gate Lager, which is made just past Boston Bar here up north, and that was the cheapest beer. It was like cheaper than Budweiser. I was like, I'll just get this stuff. Who cares if we don't drink it or throw it up? And it has coarse carbonation. I don't know. You need to be able to get the carbonation out in the first 50 meters of that 400, or you're just going to be in a bad place.
I have learned more
you just got to do them. You just got to kind of like do them, and you'll know right away if you're going to be good or not. If you do it in like 12 minutes, you have some work to do.
Do you have any other like food or eating or drinking races on your horizon? Is there anything else that is like you've been like, I want to do that someday? Or is Beer Mile like you found your calling early and like you stayed with it?
I think I might just stay the course of this one. Although, that being said, there is the Beer 2 Mile. and the beer half.
Okay.
So that beer half is 1 beer every mile. And I do know that Matt Lieto did that on his driveway. So I have to see if I can best his time. But
I know Matt did it because the original beer half marathon record was something like 5.5 hours.
yeah,
I think because most people just give up because they forget what they're doing.
I don't disagree. I don't know how the beer 2 mile would go, because by the time you're finished, that's usually when things start to take a turn for the worse. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a swimmer, so I'm not really tempted to do that the Dixie Cup one where they're sprinting 50s.
Ooh.
I know Matt
What?
also. That's where I heard that one from, and it's something to do with like lining up a couple Dixie Cups of beer and like sprinting 50s, get out drinking, sprinting another 50 or something along those lines. So, but I'm not a swimmer. Like the times that they're swimming with beer in their stomach, I couldn't swim like off the blocks when I'm tapered. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, so we have now spent roughly a third of this conversation talking about the beer mile.
Not sorry.
Yeah, me either. This is going to be the most watched 21 minutes of our YouTube channel of all time.
It's a fun event.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If beer's your thing. If not, I mean, you can do the donut mile. You can do honestly.
Be careful. You know where this can go.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
Yep.
It all starts with the beer mile, and then
you find what you love.
On Tuesday morning, like, where am I?
It's gonna
The
kill
donut
him.
mile does sound like fun.
Yeah, or then when you hit rock bottom, you're doing the eggnog challenge.
Oh,
which is
those are dark days.
Something about like you have to drink a certain amount, and then you run a lap or something. And you keep going until you throw up, and then the last guy standing wins, or woman standing wins. Which sounds, I'd try it. Like, why not?
I think I might be good at that.
Yeah,
you're the second person we've had on the show who has a high aptitude for sort of eating and running. We had a Pizziola a few weeks ago, who is a pizza challenge champion.
Oh,
the pizza run champ. Yeah,
I'll have to look this up.
Yeah. That's another
fun.
one I could get behind. Yeah. Eating pizza slices and going running. Like, tell me things I won't do. Yeah. That's, I'm in for both
Why
of
not?
those. Right.
Oh, and there is one that I'd like to do in Tucson called the Dusty Bunny. And they have this like 10K mountain bike trail loop. It's just like a cross country, pretty mellow. And I guess they do 100K. So they do 10 laps, and every lap you drink a beer. So it's like a marathon event.
Oof. Yeah.
Huh.
I've heard it is gnarly because it's also Tucson. It's hot.
And people would fall off their bicycles.
Yeah, it's not that difficult. It's
Oh, okay.
like, you could probably ride a road bike through there.
Okay.
Relatively easy.
Come to Portland. There's a taco trot where you have to run, I think it's 2 miles.
It's much more than 2 miles. It's
like
5.5 miles. And it's 11 tacos. I DNF'd the
tacos.
taco trot.
Seems like a lot more than 2 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Significantly more.
Yeah.
11
it's in-
tacos.
11
kilometers. Who
tacos.
knows how far it is?
Yeah. Do you just stuff the tacos all 11 in and go?
That's a really good question. You stop at actual taquerias along the way, 2 of which are Taco Bells. And the Taco Bells are like, those are gimmies because like Taco Bell taco just like disappears. It's nothing.
It's like eating air.
Exactly.
Yellow.
But then the real taqueria tacos where like they wrap it in 2 tortillas, like that stuff gets real tough.
There's a lot of substance.
Yep. Yeah, there's some strategy involved. But I DNF'd.
You have to order them as well. Like you have to stand in line and get the tacos.
Really?
Like, that's part of the event.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be quick.
Yeah.
You got to get in there.
That's part of
I
it.
would try
Yeah.
that. I would come to Portland just for that.
You really got to get the whole shop because if you get backed up behind people, you're screwed.
Oh, it's like waiting in line for a bathroom in Ironman in the morning.
Exactly.
If you're not an
Exactly.
early pooper, it's over for you.
Yeah. No, you just head to the lake. I mean, we all know what you do.
Yep. Just gotta go. Yeah.
Second memory of 2017 ITU long distance champs. Poor Mike Brown had to catch an athlete who decided to take that exact approach on race morning on the beach.
Right beside the stairs.
Right beside, like, I mean, oof.
I remember we're at the start line and Mike Brown's coming up like all pissed off. We're like, what's going on, Mike? He's like, some athlete's taking a shit on my start line. What? Just took a dump right beside the stairs over there. Wow, Mike, that's gonna make for a great story one day. Oh, can we do this?
All right. So we've already gotten some comments that this is the best edition of Detention ever, which I
Yes.
certainly believe so. So a lot of professional triathletes do have like a full-time job, just because we all know that you can't really make a living doing this. But you are a professional firefighter, which, although most of us, when we're growing up, say we want to become firefighters, very few of us actually become firefighters. You and I talked about this a few weeks ago. Could you run us through, and sort of the way that you and I did, what a standard work week looks like for you with training added to
Yeah. So, like I said, when I was chatting with you, we work a 4 on 4 off schedule. So 2 10-hour day shifts, 2 14-hour night shifts, and then we have 4 off. So let's just say my training and my coach has been really good with this because I've been with my coach since basically I started in the fire department. We work off an 8-day week, not a 7-day week, which just makes sense for us because if like you trying to plan the same workouts every week for the same days, it just wouldn't work because of the rotating schedule. And we find with like pro racing and just like the high ability for output, it works really well for us. So I'll work my 2-day shifts. I'll usually do strength training, maybe an easy spin on the spin bike at work, because it's kind of near the end of the day once we've done everything. And if there's no calls at the end of the day, we can do a little workout in the gym because all the fire halls have a gym. So yeah, I usually do some strength training on my days, maybe a easy run or an easy spin, but very short. Like you just watch TV or put your iPhone on and watch YouTube or something. And then it's like the 2 night shifts. You have a Fireman's Friday, which is the night of your second day, and then you don't go back to work for another 24 hours for the first night. So that day that we have the day off, I can do kind of regular training. Then you go to night shift, come home the next morning, have a nap, then do some more training. And usually you don't really have much room for other stuff. Through my whole career, I've tried to not like book anything in between my nights if possible. I mean, obviously when you have a kid, it's a little different. And if that falls on the weekend, then we're doing some family activities and sleep kind of goes to the wayside. But then you work your second night and then you have your 4 off. So bang some sleep and then right back into training. So usually like before my son was born, when I would put in like a big days, you would sleep and then you'd be training until like probably 8 at night. And then you have 3 full days where you're just training lots. So, and it kind of rotates. Like when people say they're doing 18 hours a week, like some weeks of mine are like 13 hours if I just happen to be working a lot of shifts in that week, especially day shifts, or if I'm working shift trades. And if I'm not, like this week, what is it, Tuesday? I got off work yesterday morning or the Sunday morning, and I'm off on holidays. Daycare was supposed to be closed right now, so I would have been home with my son, but it's not. So I'm just going to be probably training. Like this might be a 20-something hour week, or next week might be something like that too. So it kind of varies. We really take advantage of the days off and do big training days, usually 3 sessions. In season, like in race season, it might be 4 sessions, but it really varies. But we found this sweet, like if you look at the end of the week on Training Peaks, what Training Peaks tells you is your week. We've been really running off of like a 17 to 19 hour week for the bulk of the year. Like when I'm in training, in the off season, it'll be, maybe 10 or 13 hours. And then in the Ironman build season, you might be pushing up to like 25 hours. But we find like we don't really need quite as much volume, and we just consistently get improvements. So we kind of stick with the program that's been working. But yeah, there definitely is not a lot of time for other stuff other than like family and training. So it's like little projects around the house kind of get pushed back continually. Like today I had like, I'm going to do this one little thing. It's probably going to take me like half an hour, and it just never materialized. So
So going from a super physical job into the expectation to kind of be on from your training, is there anything that you focus on for recovery or anything to help you feel sharp for that, for training so that you're able to do it?
Yeah, I mean, so sleeping when you can, and trying to get like really good sleep on your days off. Obviously, when you have kids, it's a little more challenging. My wife's pretty incredible and very supportive, so she helps bear some of the brunt of nighttime, to so I can get some extra sleep. And then also when Aiden or when our son was younger, it was like, okay, one of us needs to be able to be on and have a little more sleep. So because if you have two people who are super deprived, you're just going to have fighting all the time. So, and we know a lot of friends who have had that problem too. So like, okay, I'll sleep a little bit more, and then like I'll take over during the day so that you can get some extra sleep. And then like if you're having a bad day, I'll just kind of like just eat it and let you vent on me, and life will be okay. But I find like when you can sleep, that's really, that's where you get all your recovery. And then really being on top of recovery nutrition, like that's, I preach this and I'm sure you preach this, and like some people listen and some people don't, but like it's science and it's proven. And like even anecdotally, like I can tell if I'm like slow to get some recovery nutrition in, that's your downstream effect can, if you're really bad, like it can take you days to recover from even like one big session with a really poor recovery. So yeah, I think getting your recovery nutrition in is just like the most, next to sleep, is the most important thing for your recovery, and not digging yourself into a hole in training. I've been really good at that over the past probably half a decade. It's taken a while to learn, but knowing when like you're done and you're just going to be fighting yourself into a hole. So, and using nutrition in training to really not put yourself in a hole in that. Because, I'm sure, Chris, you've bonked yourself out pretty hard in a session, and then like you're just not really on for a couple days. So I find that like nutrition and sleep, those are the two big things. And then when it's easy, I find, to roll and stretch with my son around. Like he'll sometimes jumps on you and you're trying to do like, hip stretches, and he's like, "You're the tractor," and he's like sitting on top of you, pretending to drive you like a tractor. But yeah, rolling and stretching is probably like the third element that's really helped keep me healthy and be able to train at like a somewhat of a high level. So I mean, it's like this nothing new or revolutionary. It's probably the same thing every single coach anywhere ever tells their athlete to do. I need you to sleep. I need you to do proper nutrition. I need you to roll and stretch. And like, honestly, that's it. Like those are, having good training program can only go as far as what you're going to do to recover from it. So I think it's nothing. I wish I could tell you like, yeah, I took this stuff in this bottle and it made me 30% faster, but it's really just following the pillars of training. So
you just talked about the fact that you've been able to see steady improvement over the years, and that's definitely what I know of you. Sort of like, oh, like Nathan has continually gotten better ever since I've raced with you. What metrics do you track in order to look at that improvement outside of your race results?
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty dialed in with just how I feel, and a lot of my training is, especially running, has always been on kind of on the same run courses. Like especially when I used to live in Vancouver, I only had basically one or two routes that I always trained on. So the conditions were always similar, and I could really see like you hit checkpoints during like aerobic sessions where you like, okay, I'm at this checkpoint a little faster, and my heart rate, you can just see how your heart rate slowly is lower or stays at the same, and your pace increases when you're doing intervals on that area. Like you can really see when you're actually going faster, and like you can see the heart rate data. So that's kind of how run tracking has helped me. And like I can tell. I've been doing this for long enough that I can tell when I'm running well, and I can tell when I'm not running well. So that's part of it. And doing outside of like big pro races, like doing 5Ks and 10Ks, and doing testing in training, like going to the track and running 5K, or doing like 5 or 10 by 1Ks on like a certain rest interval, or doing 10K time trials. Like those kind of things have really helped, because you're always going to go slower in the tests than you, or not always, but you usually will go slower in the test because it's in training. But you can kind of track like how it felt, how fast you went, like how your heart rate looked, and all the different variables, whether they're objective or subjective. So you can kind of like piece it all together, and that's what works for me. It's not quite as easy if you're not as experienced. And then on a bike, it's pretty similar, just like knowing the watts that I can hold for certain durations, climbing really well or not climbing well, or the Zwift Racing, like it's pretty easy to track there because all your race results for every race are kept on this specific website called zwiftpower.com, and like you can just track, and in a race, if you went like all in on like a 20 or 25 minute section, you can see what your numbers are for there. So it's kind of a good indicator. But I think, as you get close to races, I can tell if I'm running well and riding well and swimming well. So it's always kind of a crapshoot what's actually going to happen on race day, because I've had, and Chris, I'm sure you've had the same, where like one or two of the components of the triathlon are like amazing, but then it just takes one poor leg to really kind of poop out on a race. So it's really been over the last decade about improving, focusing on something every year. So with my coach, we knew when I started with him, I was like, okay, I'm in this for the long game. Like, I don't want to just be fast next year, because like if you can somehow do that, that's awesome, but I'll probably be dead the next year. So let's do the long game. And we've worked on, this is the run year. Like, this is the year we're going to focus on getting better running, and it works. And then the next year we say this is going to be the swim year. This is going to be the bike year. So we did a lot of bike work early, and like I just took to the bike a little better than I did the run and the swim. So it's kind of like knowing and having the patience to just play the long game. Because in pro racing, like Chris, you've seen too, it's ridiculous. Like we get faster, but everyone else seems to get way faster. Like
I never got faster. All of you guys got faster around me.
It's just,
I had one good year and then stayed the same for the rest.
It's crazy.
Of the
like if you look at what we can do now, if you go back 10 years, like we'd be winning races left, right, and center. But like now it's just insane. It's crazy. The numbers, like just on the bike alone, the numbers that it's like everyone just gets faster and stronger. And like, what? Can you guys slow down a little bit?
Yeah, it has gotten very, very fast.
Yeah. But yeah, I think really just having the patience to kind of, look at the long game. I mean, I was young enough when I first started too. Like, not everyone has the luxury of. I would work at the fire hall, and then triathlon was it for years. And before that, I was a heavy duty mechanic, and even there, work was like, I was just there to get my paycheck, and then it was triathlon. Like that was it. So I dedicated my life for 14 years. Like at least the first 10 years, that was it. That was like my whole world. So it's not like it just happens from like, I feel like I'll go out for a run. Like that was my whole world. So like I tell everybody, anyone who will listen, if you did anything as hard as I did triathlon, you would probably be way better at that thing than I am at triathlon. Like if you were like, I'm going to be a good artist, and you did that much work, like you freaking Picasso or something, like you'd be cutting your ear off and like being in museums everywhere. It's just like dedication. So that's really how, I've seen the progression over the years, is like not just like going all in 1 year and just putting myself into a hole and getting sick and injured, and staying healthy has been probably the biggest key aspect of that. So listening to your body, learning about your body, learning to listen to what your body's telling you.
We have a question from chat that I think fits in really well here. Jenny would like to know, with all of your focus and your training and your dedication, what is your vice or your indulgence? If you have any Nanaimo Bars, what are those? Nanaimo Bars? Oh my gosh. What is that?
Nanaimo.
Please tell me you have Nanaimo Bars in the States.
I have never heard of such things.
What?
We don't. No.
We have crunchy bars though, which are the best candy bar.
I can't be American ever.
What's in them?
Heaven.
Oh,
Like someone figured out how to put heaven into a little
that's
old
so
bar.
nice.
What are they? I don't even. What is the yellow? That's like a vanilla custardy stuff. Or, I don't know.
I think it's custard. There's definitely chocolate. The version
Chocolate
that,
on top
yeah,
and like a kind of like a Grammy cookie bottom thing.
I want that.
If oh my God, you would not have it and not be like, this is the best thing ever. I
Okay.
should be Canadian because this is
Okay.
amazing.
where is Nanaimo, Nathan?
Nanaimo is in on Vancouver Island, very close to where Victoria 70.3 is. It's a lovely little seaside town.
What?
Yeah, it's probably like, I don't know, an hour, 90 minutes, an hour away from Victoria-ish, depending on where in Victoria you are. You kind of got to like go into Victoria and then drive way down and then go way up. But Vancouver Island's big, so it's quite close.
Chad is insisting that we do have them in the United States, and Kirby, says she will make me some. Thank you. And
Your world is going to be just all other desserts will be destroyed.
I'm really excited about this. This is really exciting. Kirby says they're graham coconut butter crust.
Yes, you got you. So I looked it up while you guys were chatting. So a wafer, nut, and coconut crumb base, custard in the middle, and then chocolate ganache on top.
That is a very like fancy explanation. You would eat it and be like,
It's heaven.
oh my God, it's just like sugar and chocolate.
I can't wait.
It's so good.
I can't wait.
So is that the Nathan Killam vice?
That's not my vice, no.
Oh, okay. So
It does sound like a good vice to have. I can't even tell you the last time I had a Nanaimo bar. It's not like usually Nanaimo bars show up on like the little dessert platter when you go out to an event, and they're just, you have your little pieces of like oat bar, and you got your little like lemon bar thing, and that other little bar, and then there's a Nanaimo bar. It's like it's not like a super popular thing. What is my vice? Well, when I finish a big ride and eat cookies, that's not a vice. It's just refueling.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say that's a vice.
so excuse number one.
Beer.
Okay.
Probably, I would say beer at night. Like sometimes I have beer at night, and like I'm not drinking a 6-pack. I'll have a beer or two, depending on what time of the year. But that's probably my one vice. Like the one thing that I ingest or do that's like not beneficial to training, probably that. Yeah. And then sometimes scotch. I like expensive scotch.
Fancy.
I don't drink too much of it because it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you enjoy becomes a problem when it becomes too expensive. So.
What?
Okay. Triathlon, a vice.
Yeah, right.
If I'm using that line of reasoning. I'm not a big like eating a bag of chips at night or like I basically am. I don't prevent myself from having treats and goodies. I just eat them around training, so they just become fuel for training. Problem solved. Everyone wins. Like I don't have to have a salad and then go out on a 5-hour ride. Like I can smash some cookies into my face and then stop at 3 hours and smash some Snicker bars into my face, and then finish at a coffee shop and smash some more cookies into my face. Like
I'm in 100%
it's all about
agreement.
just timing.
Yes.
It's all about timing.
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So one of my other questions that you were talking about earlier kind of jives with another question that we just got in chat. So excellent timing. But you were talking a bit about some of the Zwift racing that you've done, and I know you've done some of the Ironman virtual races as well. What role has the virtual racing scene played in your training this year? And the question from chat was, how does it fit in with off-season goals? Does VO2 get subbed?
Yeah, so Zwift racing. I've been Zwift racing for a long time. I guess as some people would say, since before it was cool. It's probably been since like, I've had a Zwift account since 2014. So I got an OG Zwift ID number. I was in like the beta phase, but I never really did it much. I didn't really like it that much initially. I didn't understand it, and I wanted to watch my TV and ride the trainer, do my workouts, and that was good enough. And then my coach was like, "You, big German, like you must get on this Zwift racing. It is good for you. It will make you stronger." And I was like, oh, this is stupid. So then it was probably 2016, maybe, when I got back into Zwift racing. And like, I just loved it. The first one or two, I had some issues with, like, I had an old computer and it couldn't process the graphics very fast. So like I was having some issues, and then I got an iPad, or actually then I started running off my iPhone and it was fine. And then I got super addicted to it. So yeah, this year it's played a big role. I've been doing like, so I guess last year, once the lockdown started, I started doing more racing than I have in the past, just because there's nothing to really work towards. So I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. I raced since the Ironman VR series. That was actually like the last big thing I did before we closed on our house and I started the reno. So I've I'm probably back up to my fitness I was at then. Like, a month of doing nothing but renovations does nothing for your bike's fitness. So yeah, that was really good because it kind of got me motivated once I knew I was going to be doing it, and it actually went really well. I know how to race virtual bike racing, so that really benefited me a lot in the virtual race series, well, the one race I did, because I knew who the other guys were, and like, generally I would be stronger on the bike than most of them anyways, and then I just know how the game works, so that worked out really well. And unbeknownst to me, and if you had watched, like, Killshaw had just had his first kid like a couple weeks before, so he was and they'd had some troubles, so like I was pretty impressed that he came out and did as well as he did. But yeah, the Zwift racing itself has really helped. I've been doing some of the Pro-Am series racing. We just finished the Premier Division racing in the Zwift Race Series. I did the Movistar team tryouts, the esports race team tryouts, which I didn't make it to the final round, but one of my friends did. So I'm hopefully, well, Elliot, he was racing and he was just killing everybody. He's like an animal on the bike. But yeah, it really it gave me, and it gave a lot of people I know, a lot of focus. And I think that was really important in a world where everyone just felt lost. Like, you need, especially for some people, just absolutely unmotivated to train if there's nothing to focus on. And that I'm not quite like that. I can just train if I have my coach is giving me training, I'll train. But yeah, that really, it brings a little bit more enjoyment to the training. And through the winter, I've always been Zwift racing. I usually would stop in the spring, like once we're outside, and like, I'm not too often I want to ride indoors if I can ride outside. So, I mean, Canada, it's pretty cold and poopy here in the winter. So, as I'm sure a lot of places in the States are, well, I know a lot of places in the States are. So it's really helpful to stay motivated through the winter, and, putting the Zwift races in the right place so you avoid burnout and, overtraining and those kind of things. They really help test you, and that's what it's really helped with me. It's important. A lot of people will be like, oh my God, Zwift racing, and they'll do like 3 races a day, and they'll race like 5 days a week. And like, that's a great way to burn yourself out real quick. As soon as like the race season starts to roll around, you're like right at the peak of burnout. So like, we've been pretty careful about timing everything, but it's helped with I would say, like, in pro racing, as Chris knows, the bike is not just like, okay, you're going to hold 300 watts. It's like 450 watts, and then it's like 300 watts, and then it's like 400 watts. And it just, like, the power bounces all over the place. There's attacks, and like, you're trying to do your own attacks and respond to stuff. So it's really helped with learning how to change pacing and like recover while still riding at hard efforts. So it's just like new skill sets, I guess. Perhaps not so beneficial for Ironman racing, because you shouldn't really be riding like that even in the pro race. Like, there's very few guys that can actually do that and not blow up. But yeah, I think for like the shorter 70.3 and shorter, it's really beneficial. And really, the motivation is like the key aspect of it all.
That brings up another question that we've got for you, is that you've said before that you found that you really work well with maybe a little bit more intensity than volume. Mm-hmm. And we were wondering if you could talk a little bit about, first of all, how you discovered that. And then secondly, if there's been any periods where you've discovered that's not true for you.
Yeah. So I discovered that after the first few years of working with my coach, we were doing a lot of, especially with running. I don't find it quite as bad with riding, but on the run end of things, I just found like doing a lot of long, slow, or like long aerobic work just on its own I wasn't finding any improvements. So I remember, I think it was 2013. The race season wasn't going very well. I probably had that the first few years of triathlon. I'd had like, that beginner's curve, and you just like improve really dramatically over a short period of time. And then you kind of, you have to start working for it, and you have to find like the proper way to train. And I just remember like feeling really flat all the time. And like, I felt like I had no run speed anymore. And like, yeah, that's it. Just when we would do more consistent run workouts that were shorter with more effort, I was just finding anecdotally that I felt better, and I felt like I was able to get, more run speed. So, I kind of brought that up to my coach after a while, like, hey, I think I'm feeling better when we do more shorter workouts more often with more intensity in them. I feel like I'm running better. I feel like my form feels better. And I think part of that has to do with, running at speed, your efficiency can improve. So I think it was just like a combination of that and all those things. And on the bike too, I find if I'm just doing lots of volume, I don't feel as good. I don't feel as strong. So then when we started doing, shorter workouts, so my 70.3 years, like years that I haven't raced Ironman, even years I race Ironman, like it's pretty rare to see me ride over 3 hours. Like a lot of 90-minute and 2-hour rides. There are some years where like 90 minutes was my bread and butter on the bike. Like you would go out and smash your face in for 90 minutes. But in like, there was lots of areas I like to ride where I use Strava. So like you would just be cleaning house on the KOMs. And like, this is against groups of roadies who are like Cat 1, 2 racers in big packs, and you'd be taking KOMs. But like, that's how hard they're hard 90 minutes. Like you have your 15-minute warm up, and then you're right into it. And then like you get, I don't know, a 10-minute cool down at the end. So it was a lot of effort, but not a lot of volume. And I just found like I could recover quicker from like the shorter duration and with the intensity. And we just kind of continued. And I said, like, my coach is really open to, changing the program to suit your needs. So we collaborated on that, and like, it worked. And that's like 2014, 2015, once we started implementing, that's when I really found my performance skyrocket. But that's not for everybody. I know lots of guys who, like, Jesse V and Ben Hoffman, like those guys work off of huge weeks of like a ton of aerobic work. And like, especially Ben, like he's an animal. Like I know he does some intensity, but he does a lot of volume. So that would break me. I've tried that, and it just poops me out the other side. So I think everyone's different, and that's just what we've discovered works well for me, which is perfect for a busy lifestyle because I just don't have time to do big aerobic weeks.
So I know a few years ago you sort of switched to Superleague for a season. Can you tell us a little bit about how your approach changed in training for that and what that experience was like? Because I don't know that everyone knows that much about it.
Yeah, super exciting. That's where it starts. It is unlike any triathlon racing you've ever done. Like everything you think you know about triathlon racing, just throw it out the window, because Superleague, like, you do 3 full triathlons in an hour. Like, it is crazy hard. It is, if you think you've tasted blood before, then like that's basically Superleague. You're breathing out of your eyeballs the whole time. You come out of the water and you're already redlined, and then you have to get on the bike and redline again. And I have to give it to those. I don't think people can appreciate or respect how strong those guys are. Like the Olympic guys like Vincent Lewis and Henry Schumann and those guys, like, let me tell you, if you think you're strong, like, you got something coming, because those guys are like, I can't even understand how they can go so fast, like some of the things that they were doing out there. So the excitement factor alone for me was like, okay, this is pace and intensity and action is crazy. Like we're talking like you're sprinting to the elimination line with like a bunch of other people. Like you're trying not to get eliminated. Like you're basically racing off fear. So we definitely altered some of my training. Super League was always kind of like a background racing for me. Like I had my big goals in 70.3 and Ironman, and this was just like, I'm probably not so traditional like a lot of triathletes. Like I will, if you tell me about it and it looks cool and I think I could do okay, I'll try it. Like, oh, throw myself down a mountain on a mountain bike. Yeah, that sounds fun. When do we start? Like, oh, you have to race against Olympians. Okay, let's do it. And so the opportunity presented itself, and I was like, okay. So I went to Penticton, and Bag was there. We got smoked out, so it was like the perfect storm. Like I don't know if I would have made the roster anyways. So they shipped us all. If we wanted to go, they shipped us out to Jersey in the UK because we got smoked out and couldn't race, and they let us race for the selection there. And I made friends with everybody, and they let me, even though I never made the team, they let me keep coming back for some reason. And it was a lot of fun. Like the training is a ton of transition work because the swim is 300 meters. The bike was anywhere from 3 to 5K, and the run was about a mile, anywhere from a kilometer to a mile, give or take. They kind of just based it off of the available course area they had, but everything's on the same course. So the run's on the bike course. It's all laps. You get lapped out if you get caught. Like if you're the last, they had these elimination rules. There's a bunch of different formats. So it was super exciting. It was something new, and it was just really high action and adrenaline pumping kind of stuff. And like I had races where my swim was over my races after the swim was over. Like I was the last guy out of the water. See you tomorrow. So it's like, it's kind of like, oh, great. I had a 4-minute race. Awesome. But somebody's got to be that guy. Maybe that's why they brought me. But yeah, so a lot of transition work, a lot of like very short, very high intensity efforts, going right into a transition, right into another high intensity efforts. But it wasn't so out of the ordinary. I do a lot of transitional work for 70.3 racing. A lot of like, we do we do these super bricks. So it's like back and forth between the run and the bike, run and the bike, run and the bike, just back and forth, back and forth. And that's something I've done for years, and it's a really good tune up for races. So it wasn't dramatically different, but there was definitely a lot of like really short, like gassing yourself out and then having to go into another sport and try to right into gassing yourself out. And like that is the bread and butter of Super League. Like you come out of the water, red lined, running up the beach, full tilt onto your bike, full tilt immediately into a climb that like your body just is not ready to handle that. So teaching yourself how to like handle lactate, and it's nuts. So I can't say it was dramatically different, but there was definitely like a little extra sprinkling of pain. But like it would be a short session, like it would be very short, and then you would go into doing something aerobic with like to finish the sessions off, just to kind of like get a bit of volume, like to get something out of it for the longer racing. Like 2 years ago, I did a Super League race in Ottawa, and then 2 weeks later did Ironman Mont Tremblant. It was like a breakthrough Ironman for me, so maybe that's, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but maybe there's something to it.
Something there, exactly. So I think between Super League and the Beer Mile and the Nanaimo Shuffle, whatever it is that we're going to come up with that, we have requests for you to come and join a camp sometime. You're definitely a fan favorite over here at the Endurance
Awesome.
School. So thank you so much. I know we're at the top of the hour. We could probably ask you a million more questions, but you probably want to get back to your real life. So So thank you for joining us, and yeah, we hope you'll come back again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with Bag, and with everything that's been going on, I usually get to see Bag a few times a year at the races, and that's probably for me what has been, I missed racing, but I think like a lot of people, and you don't really realize this until you don't get to race, I probably miss the people of racing a little bit more than the actual racing itself. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's nice to catch up with Bag. It feels like a treat to get to talk to him inside of a couple weeks here. So
That's great.
Same goes for me, man. I miss you a bunch, and cannot wait to get across the border at some point and see you all again
Soon. For those of you who are joining us out in the endurance school world, don't forget to sign up for the Zwift ride on Thursday at 6:30 a.m. Pacific, and we have an endurance spin coming up on Saturday at 8 a.m. Information about that will be coming out shortly. So we will see you all again soon. And until then, here is to a healthier and happier and faster tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.